There's still my lesbian Doctor Who ship heart, because as much as I wanted Thasmin to happen, I never thought it would ever go canon, but, well, here we are. Sort of. Back in 2017, the 13th Doctor was announced, creating waves across the Who fandom when it was revealed that the Doctor would finally regenerate into a woman. This had always been theoretically possible and had been seen tangibly with the Master, the Doctor's long-standing nemesis, when they regenerated into Missy to appear in Season 8 through 10 of the New Who. However, all previous known regenerations of both the Master and the Doctor, starting all the way back with Old Who in the 60s, had been men. The implication of a female Doctor was vast as it was queer. Very queer, in fact, putting into practice what the Doctor themselves had already said.
We're the most civilized civilization in the universe. We're billions of years beyond your petty human obsession with gender and its associated stereotypes.
With New Who, that is, the reboot of the franchise in 2005 with the 9th Doctor, queerness popped up within the show, with characters like Jack Harkness in all his bisexual glory planting a smacker on the then male Doctor, and it was no big deal. A lizard lady from the dawn of time and her human wife that made appearances in seasons 6 through 8, the Doctor's wife, Riversong.
You know who you remind me of?
Yes, probably a chap with a big...
My second wife.
And with the 12th Doctor having an out lesbian companion in the shape of Bill Potts. This is not to mention the spin-off of Torchwood and all its gay shenanigans. Doctor Who is rife with the possibility of upending social mores, pushing boundaries and being very queer by nature, of having an alien at the centre of the franchise from a supposedly evolved race of beings who can travel time and space in technology that is far beyond Earth's abilities as to seem impossible.
Never did this when I was a man. Doctor, you and your jokes? Yeah, that's right. My references to body and gender regeneration are all in jest. Such a comedian.
But due to very earthly concerns such as ratings, cultural sentiment, and the usual things that prevent popular media from being queer, these nods to non-heteronormativity often skirted the edges of the show as opposed to being centred within the narrative. As you can imagine, the moment the show announced Jodie Whittaker would be donning the mantle as the 13th Doctor, the Woman Love Woman Doctor Who fans perked right up and began making speculations on just what that would mean when it came to her sexuality, given her history with pretty women. Sexuality on Doctor Who, or rather the sexuality of the Doctor, had always been ambiguous. All to some degree could be read as ace, that is, asexual, meaning that they don't experience sexual attraction, or perhaps demisexual, meaning that they only experienced attraction when a close bond was formed. But I don't think any, both in New and Old Who, could definitively be described as allosexual, that is to say, not on the asexual spectrum, because while they clearly had feelings for some of their companions, sex is never implied as being on the table. This is despite New Who introducing sexuality, romance, and gender into the mix in a much more overt fashion than Old Who, which was originally intended as a kids' show and therefore not seen to be an appropriate topic. With this background, the likelihood of the 13th Doctor being more decidedly ace and or arrow meaning aromantic, denoting a lack of romantic attraction to anyone, seemed at least to me a likely route to take for the show because, given the Doctor's romantic entanglements with characters like Rose, Riversong and Clara, a female Doctor didn't erase these past attachments and, in fact, made them inherently queer, even though they had read as heterosexual when they first aired. After all, 13 carried all the memories of those events in her new body. I hadn't expected the show to be ready to cast a female Doctor and address a potentially sapphic sexuality for the regeneration within the same era, given how lightly it had treaded on the topic previously. In fact, dealing with making the Doctor female felt like quite the mountain to climb already, so I was pretty skeptical when the 13th's latest female companion, Yasmin Khan, made the impassioned declaration with big hearts in her eyes that the Doctor was the best person she'd ever met. Or when, a few episodes into the 13th Doctor's era, Yaz's mum is suspiciously questioning,
Are you two seeing each other?
I don't think so. Are we?
We're friends.
Having experienced my fair share of heavy queerbaiting, I didn't trust a show of this magnitude and cultural weight to commit to anything sapphic for 13 and her female companion, even if it was clear from things Yaz said and how distraught she was when she was separated from the Doctor at the end of season 12 that there were strong emotions brewing for her at least. They could just as easily have stayed in the realm of hero worship or a desire to be more like the Doctor, Although, to my sapphic eyes and many others, it was clear that Yaz's feelings went beyond that, especially with season 13. Graham and Ryan, as the two companions of season 11 and 12, served as a good litmus test. They neither of them had the hint of an attraction to the Doctor nor the level of hero worship that Yaz did. They didn't experience the difficulty in reintegrating into their old lives during their 10-month hiatus from the Doctor, in spite of the grief of losing wife and grandmother Grace that had motivated them to leave their real lives behind for a while. Their departure, while Yaz emphatically chose to stay, only highlighted differences in how they viewed the Doctor and their time on the ship, and the 13th season merely emphasised Yaz's feelings when, once again, separated from the Doctor this time for years, she clung to the holo recording of her that, it can be surmised, had been watched hundreds of times, with that look on her face. And this look on her face when the Doctor was finally in front of her again. Yaz's feelings, while not explicitly stated, were clearly discernible to anyone capable of seeing a queer reading of the text, but it still did require a queer reading of the text. The New Year's special, Eve of the Daleks, however, made Yaz's feelings explicitly textual in a move that I had hoped for, but not anticipated.
Have you ever told her?
Told her what?
How you feel about her?
I don't know what to do, Dan. I've never told anyone. Not even myself.
Just tell her.
It's not that easy.
And good Lord, if that didn't just thrill my shipper heart. What hadn't been so clear throughout these 3 seasons, however, is how the Doctor feels. Focused on the idea of her companions being her family, she expressed a stronger tendency towards platonic relationships.
Look at you.
My fam.
And the singular episode during this era where she was flirted with was shut down in no uncertain terms.
May I just say, you were quite lovely in a crisis.
No, you may not.
Sorry, I lie. She flirted with herself, which is so on brand for the Doctor.
I've got such a crush on her.
With the later special, there is no textual confirmation that the Doctor returns Yaz's feelings, although I lean strongly towards believing that she does and that she's just too afraid to go there. Amongst her companions, 13 showed a preference for Yaz that was in keeping with her tendency to gravitate towards attractive female humans during other regenerations. Storylines also often had Yaz and the Doctor paired up, while Graham and Ryan had their meatier character development happen between the two of them as they went about saving the day. There are multiple parallels between canon couples on the show that can relate back to 13 and Yaz, such as Jack and Adam, the gay couple in Praxis. From Jack being an ex-cop and feeling unworthy of his astronaut husband Adam, leading to a need to prove himself, a pretty easy parallel to see with Yaz and the Doctor, not to mention their stubborn difficulty with expressing their feelings to each other. Then with Bel and Vinda throughout the 13th season, as they too, like Yaz and the Doctor, were separated from each other, using holograms to communicate.
I love you.
I love you too.
I'm sure I miss you.
Miss you too.
And, in the most transparent, hit you over the head of all parallels in the Eve of the Daleks special, we saw Nick, after 3 years, finally declaring his crush on the oblivious Sarah, which led to them leaving to travel the world together as a couple. This is quite besides other couples of the era, such as Tessa and Dorothy, Claire and Byron, and the parallels that could be drawn between the 10th Doctor and Rose, which, given how deliberate the plotting of the 3 seasons of this era has been, does not strike me as a coincidence. Then there was the Doctor making a hologram for Yaz, anticipating they might get separated because she had taken to heart how hard it had been for Yaz the first time. In the hologram, she confesses in an uncharacteristic moment that she probably misses her, echoed again when they reunite, along with the hug that the Doctor initiates. Most telling, however, was the Doctor declaring that she wanted to tell Yaz everything that she'd been holding back, with tears in her eyes, followed by gazing at each other before being interrupted. It seems the issue is not that the Doctor doesn't have feelings, but rather that she is so afraid of hurting again and hurting those around her, and that has led to her making pointed efforts to keep Yaz and all of her companions of this era at arm's length. She's kept quiet about her past, she's avoided probing questions using both levity and most recently snippy replies, and even in declaring that she wants to tell Yaz everything, she hasn't actually done so. In the special, her interactions with Yaz were fraught with tension, and when Dan, the latest companion to join the show, chose to do Thasmin shippers a solid and play Cupid by confronting the Doctor about Yaz's feelings, The look on her face is one that spoke of devastation and impending loss. Because having a companion develop feelings is nothing new in the Who canon. In New Who, Rose, River, Martha and Clara all had complicated romantic feelings for the Doctor, some of which the Doctor returned. All of them were lost to the Doctor in one way or another, so it only seems logical to assume that Yaz will too. In fact, every companion has been lost in one way or another, every friend. At some point, their travels across the stars hit a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly snag that even the Doctor can't come back from. There is a price to pay for spending time with the Doctor, and she is all too aware of it, heightened by the revelation of the lost child, the impact of the flux, and the foreshadowing of her impending regeneration. The question that remains is, what can we expect from this revelation in the final 2 specials before the 13th Doctor regenerates? With Yaz's attraction laid out on the table, will it get addressed, or will it, like the Doctor's promise to tell Yaz everything, end up buried under good intentions and too much fear to follow through? Will we see Yaz declare her love, or will her feelings of not measuring up to the brilliance of the Doctor prevent her from saying anything because she's too scared of being rejected? Will the Doctor textually confirm that Yaz's feelings are reciprocated? If anything is to happen, will it happen while the Doctor is still 13? Will it end up being transferred to 14 in what I'm assuming will be a male regeneration and thus subverting the sapphic reading? Could we get a kiss between the two of them before she regenerates, or am I playing myself as I have played myself before? A hopeful heart wants to say yes, because if Chibnall has been as bold as to blow the mythology of the Doctor wide open with the lost child, have a female Doctor, and have Yaz textually in love with the said Doctor, then he may as well commit and give us the first same-sex romantic kiss between 13 and Yaz. Right before the show lampoons my shipper heart, of course, because sapphic or not, the show keeps romantic pairings with the Doctor as a thing of angst and pain, even when they do get a final night together on Beryllium that lasts 24 years. At any rate, regardless of how the 2 next specials go, we know that 13 will regenerate, and at some point Yaz will cease to travel with the Doctor one way or the other. It is the tragedy woven into the fabric of the show that an immortal being, I think we can say that they're immortal at this point, is cursed to see everyone that they love die and be left behind. I would just love to get a moment of respite for 13 before this happens, because she has been on a relentless savage gauntlet, and Yaz wants so badly to be let in on what the Doctor has been keeping secret. Like River said, happily ever after doesn't mean forever, it just means time. And there is still time left for them both, brief though it will likely be. My hope is that they get a chance to have it together. If you like this type of content, like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Until next time, lady lovers.